Hey there, this is Teresa here. I'm so glad that you have been able to join me for this webinar. Let me see who's here. I can see Shayna's here. I can see Susie's here. Let's just see, type in and let me know where you're calling in from so I can greet you as we're waiting for a few more folks to gather. Really excited for this. I have a pretty small office in my small old 1865 farmhouse. And I knew I wanted my flip chart stand, and this is not my normal flip chart stand because we've had such freezing temperatures here that literally the back end of our house, we call it a garage. Hi, Barb. It's where we store things. And on one day when it rain went underneath the door and then it froze and I can't get in there. So I didn't have a flip chart stand that I normally have, but I borrowed this one. So it's a little shorter, but hopefully it will work. And I've had to move chairs around to create this space to be able to share with you what I want to share. I see Jen's here. Let me see who else is here. I'm learning how to see who's all here at the same time. Hey, Melissa, how are you? So glad you could join. So glad you could join. I'm really excited to share what I'm going to share with you today because it's one of the simplest concepts that I really feel like came to me as an inspired idea of all the things that I teach. And time again, I have had people who have been introduced to it saying, oh, that gave me, that explained things. Oh, I see what's missing. Because if you're here, then I'm going to assume, please tell me if I'm correct, that you are wanting to experience greater levels of freedom and ease and what I call well-being in your life, that you want to experience abundance. And you may even be taking actions to try and have those things. But maybe despite your actions and your efforts, it's just not working. If you're like me, you might have a tendency to get overwhelmed because it's like, oh, I know I need to do this and this and this and this. And if I could just get all that done, then I'd experience that ease and that flow and that well-being. Can any of you relate to this? So this template is designed to help you, one, get clarity in terms of what well-being looks like for you. And in that clarity, to be able to identify the key areas where you need to devote some attention or some energy so that you can begin to start to experience that well-being, that ease, that flow. And in the course of this, because a lot of my tribe, one of the places where they do not experience well-being, where they experience scarcity and struggle and stress instead of peace and ease, is around money. And what I'm also going to help you understand is the role money plays when it comes to your well-being. And it may not be the role you think it does. And that's all I'm going to say. So I'm really excited you can be here. I'm looking at some more comments. I really do have to get a bigger screen so I can read everybody's comments. All righty. So first of all, if somebody asked you if you wanted to be wealthy, would you say yes? Let me see. If you'd say yes, type that in. I'd say yes. Okay, I'm still learning how to read the comments here. Hang on, I see what's going on here. Bear with me. Okay, all righty. So we got some yeses going on. When you think of the idea of wealth or well-being, what comes to mind? What comes to mind whenever you think of the word wealth or well-being? Barb's a yes. Type that in. Let's just see. Everybody type in. Here's what I know comes up for me, or used to come up for me, and I think it's pretty common here in our culture, especially in our American culture, that when we think of wealth, or when we think of wealthy people, We go to an idea of financial wealth or material possessions and stuff like that. Now, Jen's worked with me some, so she created a picture of wholeness, and she's closer to the real meaning of wealth. If you go to a dictionary these days for a definition of wealth, you will see that most of the definitions have to do with financial stuff and material possessions. And if you go all the way through all those definitions, down at the bottom, you will see another definition. It's actually considered obsolete, but it's the original meaning of the word wealth. So the word wealth is derived, I'm going to use a darker color here. It's derived from this word, W-E-A-L. And if you've ever heard that phrase for weal or for woe, yeah, that's where it comes from. And the meaning of the word weal in Old English is well-being. The original, now considered obsolete definition of wealth is well-being. Huh. Let me know if you want to play a game of bringing that definition back from obsolescence in your life and experiencing well-being. Because that's what I want to give you a template for. Barb's going, yes, okay? Wealth, Melissa said wealth equals freedom. Yeah, exactly. But there's this well-beingness to it. So the template that I want to introduce you to that can be like a blueprint for where you need to devote your energy, your attention, your resources, so that you can start to experience greater well-being, is what I call the wheel of abundance. Can you see that okay? Let's see if I can zoom in. Okay, the wheel of abundance. Now, so if you have a sheet of paper, I'm going to encourage you to just draw along with me, because my flip chart's a little shorter than normal. I'm going to have to make this wheel a little bit smaller so you can see it. But I'm going to invite you to draw a circle. Now, again, I'm making mine smaller, so hopefully it will stay on the screen. Yes, I can go like that. All righty? Draw a circle. And we're talking wheel, like a wagon wheel, like a Pioneer wagon wheel. And all wheels have to have a hub in the middle. So draw a hub in the middle. Okay? Using the Pioneer wagon image, draw some spokes out from it, maybe 5 or 6 spokes. Like so. Hey, starting to look like a wagon wheel. Okay? But a wagon wheel needs to attach to the wagon, so we need a hole here in the middle. That's where the axle of the wagon connects to the wheel. Now, notice, going back to what Jen said in terms of her idea of well-being is about wholeness. Notice that when we use a circle as an image for well-being or the well-being of abundance, it's a circle. There is a wholeness to it. You know, if I only had a wheel, we wouldn't even call it a wheel. Give me one moment. But if I had a wheel that looked like that, what kind of ride do you think we'd have on that kind of a wheel? And yet I know for me, lots of times that's more what my life was like. It wasn't well-rounded. It was out of balance. It was missing things. Now that did not support my well-being or my abundance. So let's go back to this wheel. And let's start to label this template so you can use it to guide you. So first of all, this is a picture that we're going to create of what well-being, fullness, wholeness might look like in your life. Whose life are we talking about? Yours. Who is the central character in your life? You. And so the place you must take in this wheel of abundance, I'm putting you put me, okay? Me, right there. right there in the center. You are the hub in your own life. Everything in your life, in a sense, is supported by you, is an expression of you, comes from you. And especially since we have a lot of women on the line, let's talk. One of the fastest ways we, especially as women, can stop experiencing well-being and ease and joy and all those things we want in our lives is when we forget that. And we make everyone and everybody else the center of our lives and our attention. We make them more important than us. That's when the crazies start. Now, this is not being selfish. This is about being self-centered. This is about recognizing the role you play in your own life. And when you're not taking care of yourself and honoring yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually, the rest of your life is not going to work too well. All of your efforts to try and help and take care and do all these things in other areas of your life, the crazies, you'll burn out. It won't go so well. You'll feel unappreciated. You'll feel overwhelmed, and then you might just stop. How many of you are following me and can relate to this? And oftentimes as women, we sometimes grow up and we think that's what we're supposed to do. But if you are a pioneer in a wagon going across the prairie, and you knew that the hub holding your wheel together was cracked or weak or disintegrating or rotted or whatever, how comfortable are you going to feel continuing to go west? What's the likelihood that you're going to make it where you want to go? No. For you to get where you want to go in your life with ease, you need a strong hub. That's you. And if you haven't been making you and your needs important, well, that may be the area that you most need to start to develop so that you can experience more well-being. Now, these other areas between the spokes are key areas of your life where you give a lot of time or attention, or that they're really important in your life. One such area, and they really contribute to your well-being in some way, shape, or form. So one area for many, many people is going to be their home. Okay? Having a home definitely adds to your well-being. Your home is where you spend a lot of time and energy. You invest a lot of money into your home. So to tend to your home and have your home be a safe place, a place that nurtures you, that expresses you, that you enjoy being in, that's going to contribute to your well-being. If you don't have a home, or if your home is like you absolutely hate it and you can't stand it and it's toxic and all that, that's going to erode your well-being. If you don't put time and energy in at your home and tending to your home, it's not going to work. Another for many people is they either have a biz or they have a job. Now, you may or may not like your job, but right now it is a key area in your life. If you didn't have your job or your business, that's definitely going to impact your well-being, because with that, there's not going to be a paycheck. With that, you've lost the ability to contribute in a specific way. You know, in spiritual traditions, especially the Catholic tradition in which I was raised, work is considered like a right, that there is a dignity, an honoring of human beings when they have a means of working and supporting themselves. So you may or may not like it, but your business and your job is definitely something that takes up a fair amount of your time and energy, and it's part of your whole life and supports your life. Now, if you happen to be a stay-at-home mom, that's kind of your business and job. Beyond the normal, family. Family is another area in this wheel of abundance. It's a single mom. It's kind of like it's family, but there's also, you have the job of being the single parent. For many people, family is just one section off by themselves, and friends comes in another. For some people, family and friends are the same. Like for me, I love my family. I do. And I have friends that are family too. So they're all kind of in the same pot for me. But here's the thing. If you don't have relationships with friends and family, you're just always alone or by yourself, or you don't know anybody, or all that sort of stuff, that's going to impact your well-being. That's going to impact your sense of joy in life. If you have friends and family and you're never connecting with them, you're never reaching out to them, those relationships are ignored or not tended, that's going to impact your well-being. And it will impact your well-being because you won't have those relationships to feed you. And if you're like a lot of people, including me, it'll impact your well-being because you'll feel guilty that I haven't been in touch, I haven't followed up. Can anybody relate to that? Yeah. You might also have an organization or an activity that you really are committed to and you invest a lot of time and energy in. So for some people, that may be like a church they're involved in, or maybe it's a hobby that's more than a hobby. One example, one of my nephews runs marathons, and my husband Dan likes to run to stay in shape. My husband's Dan's running a mile or two every few days, falls under the hub of that's him just taking care of himself, making sure he's strong and cared for. Whereas my nephew, who runs marathons, a marathon is going to take the amount of time you have to put in for training and running for that. That's going to be like a whole aspect of his life, separate from just the basic self-care. Now, everybody's going to have a few, their own variation, but these are some of the universal ones. I also want to add one other universal one. I'm going to put friends over here so I can use this one for something else. We also need to have a social life. As human beings, we are social beings. We are social creatures. We need interaction. We need to be a part of a community. We need interaction with others. And it used to be, before the internet and before Facebook and other places, that if you had your relationships with family and friends were well tended, you had a built-in social life. But now you can have well-tended friends and relationships. You're texting, you're emailing, you're calling, you're getting on Facebook and in relationship with them, and you could have zero social life. And so I'm finding for many people that sometimes, like all this stuff of family and friends and internet, they're missing out on their social life. And so what they need, where they need to put some attention, is on, I need to start to put a social life. I need to be conscious of that, doing things that are recreational and social. Now, right about this point, whenever I present this, many people expect me to finally put the one thing I haven't mentioned here, money. They're expecting me to call this arena finances. And there was a time many years ago when I did, because I've seen that model other places. Okay? But I don't. Because that's not the role that money plays in our lives. It's not the role that money plays in terms of our well-being. Money is not like this just separate compartment all by itself. There's your money and there's your family and friends in your home, and they're separate. No, Money actually impacts and touches on every aspect of our lives. It's not just a compartment of our lives. So what is the role? What's the role that money plays in our well-being, in our wheel of abundance? Well, let's go back to that. Hang on, I'm just checking for comments here if I can see if there's any new comments here. Okay, it looks like I'm current. I'm responding. All right, cool. Feel free to put in comments. I think there's a way you can raise your hand. I'm going to learn how to use that. What's the role that money plays? So let's you and I imagine we're pioneers way back in the 1800s. We're bumping from the East Coast going to the West Coast in a Conestoga wagon. And there's those wooden wagon wheels, this very much looks like it, that they would ride on. What do you think the ride feels like? Yeah, pretty bumpy. You're bouncing along, every rock, every rut, every bump, you feel it. If it rains, what do you think happens to your traction? Yeah, you're slipping and sliding. We won't even talk about snow or ice. Okay? The ride is not going to be all that comfortable. It's going to be slow, especially if it gets wet and you can't make as much forward progress. If you're climbing an incline, it's going to be like there was no treads on Pioneer wagon wheels. You know, imagine climbing a mountain and you don't have any treads. Ah, okay? So this is the analogy that describes the role money plays in your life and your well-being. Imagine if you're a pioneer back on that bumpy wagon bumping across the prairie, and I could beam in from the 20th century and say, hey, stop for a second. I got something. I think you're going to like it. It's going to make your ride a lot smoother. You'll be able to make more ground and all that. It's called a rubber tire. Think bike tire on wagon wheel. What difference do you think having a rubber tire with treads on one of those on those 4 wagon wheels on your wagon would have made for the pioneers? Yeah. Wow. Ease. Smooth. No slipping. They're able to move forward at a faster pace with more ease, more comfortably. Following this? This is the role that money plays when it comes to our well-being. It is meant to support everything else in your life. It is meant to play a supportive role that allows you to move through your life with greater ease. I like Jen, no more ouch. No more ouch. With greater ease, with greater speed, more comfortably. It's meant to play a supportive role, and it really does touch on and impact every aspect of your life. Now, the question for you to ask today is, if this is the role money plays, if it's like a tire meant to support all of my life, what's the state of my money tire? Is it solid and fully inflated? And is it really supporting me to go where I want to go and move through my life with ease and comfort and flow? Or perhaps, like many of the people I work with, my tire's just a little bit flat. Or maybe like some people I work with and I've been here myself, your tire's flat in a pancake. Because if your money tire is a little flat or underinflated or been slashed with a knife and it's flatter than a pancake, you're not going to experience well-being and ease in your life. Not all that you can. It's going to make the rest of your life really difficult. If you've ever tried to ride a bike with a flat tire, you know what I'm talking about. It's like hard work and you're having to pedal really hard, and it's like it's bumpy and it's hard to steer and you can't get any place fast, and the longer you try and pedal on that flat tire, you start to damage and warp other parts of the tire, and the wheel goes out of alignment. And I know this happens for a lot of people these days around money. God knows I've gone through times in my life, that's how I started Access Abundance, where my money tire was slashed with holes and it was flatter than a pancake. And when that's the case, here's a couple of things that happen. First of all, suddenly money feels like it's at the center. It's like suddenly everything becomes about money, and now we do not have a healthy relationship with money anymore. We've missed the role it's meant to play, and it takes on too big of a role in our lives. And it's not the money that takes on the big role and that we give our power to. It's the fear and the lack and the scarcity around the money. And then it's like, man, that's all we can focus on. And one of the things that happens when people are in that place and their tire is not solid or fully filled, where their tire's flat, we have a tendency to think, I just need to make more money. If I could just make more money, that would take care of everything. Au contraire, because it's all going to depend upon why your tire is flat. Now, if your tire is flat because my bike, for example, the tire says you should put in 110 psi. That's what it's to be inflated to. But if I only pump in 50, well, yeah, in that scenario, yeah, for me to really be able to have a nice bike ride, I need to pump more air in. But if the reason my tire is flat is because it's got just little leaks, just little pinhole leaks, or because I've slashed a knife at it, it doesn't matter how much air I pump in. It doesn't matter how hard I pump. It doesn't matter how fast I pump. That tire is going to stay flat. So just having shed this, I'm hoping that you might be able to see where in this picture so far, like what's missing for you to experience more well-being in your life. Is it that this would have been me, this picture back here, only I wouldn't have had spokes. I remember a time when my business was like my whole life, and I didn't have any other life other than maybe a little bit with my husband, in which case the path to well-being would be like, oh, I've got to start to just a little bit of time starting to nurture some family and friend relationships. Let's have a social life. Maybe I need to get involved in something else. Or maybe you go, my hub is like rotting away because I make everything, including the money, more important than me. In which case, that's where you might have to start to practice in small ways, devoting just a little bit more of your energy and your attention. Or maybe you go, yeah, my tire is flatter than a pancake. And I've got to devote some time and energy, get support to get that inflated, because if I could do that, that's going to have a big impact. But there's one more piece to this wheel that I want to share with you. And it took me a while to get it. You could do all of those things. You could get better at really honoring and taking care of you, and your hub could be nice and strong. And you could really start to it's not equal time, but you could make sure that you have more well-roundedness to your life, that the different facets, the primary facets of your life are taken care of. And you may even have a solid, fully inflated tire that supports you. In my experience, you're still not going to experience the ease and well-being that you want. This is my final piece because I know we're coming at time. Here's why. I don't know about you, but I remember back in 6th grade social studies, and I do remember it was 6th grade. We were learning about when man developed the wheel. And it was like this great invention that created so much efficiency, and it was celebrated. The wheel made such a difference to civilization. I don't get it. I don't think the wheel's all that helpful of a tool. And you know why I say that? It's because I've tried to roll an inner tube down to the water or to the river. And if you've ever tried to roll an inner tube, a tire, a wheel, down to the river, you know what I'm talking about. Because the wheel goes this way and it goes this way and it flops this way, and you want it to go that way and it goes that way, and you're like chasing the wheel. And it's just like everything's cattywampus. Because the wheel by itself, even if it's fully inflated and solid, cannot go in the direction that you want to go with ease unless it's attached to an axle. And I consider that connection or that attachment to the axle, I got to write up higher here. The axle here, let me write it up here, is your connection with the divine, or with God, or with higher power, with the source of all life and abundance. There's where ease comes in. Yes, work on your money tire. Yes, make sure your hub is strong. Yes, make sure you have a well-rounded wheel. But if you really want to go someplace with ease, you need to be attached to an axle. And now suddenly you're rolling. You're rolling. And being connected to the axle is indeed one way you care for yourself. But if you're just a standalone wheel, even if you got all the elements in a solid tire, you're not going to be able to go any place with ease unless you got an axle that can guide and steer and keep you moving forward. Now, the 3 areas that I work with people the most to support them to experience well-being is around their money tire, especially if it's underinflated, flatter than a pancake. So we got to work with that. Is their relationship with themselves. The people that I work with, oh yeah, they're the ones who make everything, including the money, more important than themselves. And they've got to learn really, really to honor and care for themselves, because that's what really creates well-being and abundance. Because again, if the hub is weak, the rest of the tire can't work. And finally, supporting you to be in connection with the divine, with your guide, with your higher power. It's why my business is named Access Abundance, because we recognize that the abundance that we desire is not up to us to create. That's already handled. It's for us to access it, and that means we have to be in tune and connected with the divine. So if any of those areas are areas that, like, oh, I'd like some support around that, love to work with you, especially if you go, my money tire is a little flat or a lot flat. If that's you, I would just invite you to check out one way that I may be able to support you. I'm just putting across that URL. Just go to our website, accessabundance.com, and there's a link on the top called Claim Your Money Power. Click on that and just read. And if that resonates with you, then you can apply for a free strategy session with me. Okay? Or you can always email me, support@accessabundance.com, and we can explore ways I can support you. But right now, for those of you who are still here, I'm curious to hear from you. Based on like what you're seeing, what are the areas of your life that you either need to tend to or give a little more attention to so that you can experience well-being? Or conversely, what are the areas in your life that you spend a little less attention on, give less energy to, like me with my business years ago, so that you can experience well-being? I'm curious. That's the question for you. And if your money tire is less than solid and fully inflated, then again, I would love the opportunity to support you around that, to claim your money power and have money take its proper supportive role, not have it be everything revolves around the money. Jen saying she needs to create a brand new money tire. Oh, yeah, sometimes I put on a new one, or we just have to do some patching. I get it. So would love to hear your comments. Would love to hear how this supported you. Did it give you a tip that you can go, oh, that's what I've been ignoring? Yeah, Melissa, I need to spend more time with my higher power. Yeah, we're like, okay, I got a wheel, let's go. And we're like trying to push the wheel to the river, and we're chasing it all over the place, trying to control it. Huh, there's ease. Let's attach it to an axle. And now we can sit up on top of the wagon instead of chase the wheel, and we can like cruise along. It's kind of like that. So yeah, taking the time to check in with guidance, with intuition, and trust it. Very, very powerful. It's also important because that's when you know that you are not alone and that you are supported. It's not up to you. Any other questions or comments? I'm just giving you another moment. Thank you for being here for my first ever mini webinar on Facebook Live. Still learning how to do this. I actually plan to be back next Thursday, the same time. And I'm going to be talking that day on what may feel like an oxymoron. I'm going to talk about abundance and prosperity, and I'm going to talk about limitation. And no, it's not like those are opposites. They go together. And so if you're interested in seeing how limitation and abundance goes together, and when you put them together, you can experience abundance, I'd love to see you here next week, Thursday. Thanks so much for being here. Please share this video with anyone you think might benefit as well. Blessings on your day. Bye.